Okay, everyone wants to say. We try.
Tell us about how he was influenced when he was young, when he was born in Italy.
Well, Arcimboldo was the son of a painter, and probably a whole painter's family. And first he appeared as the designer of stained glass windows of the Cathedral of Milan together with his father. And his father was a friend of Bernardino Luini, who himself was one of the most important followers of Leonardo. And this way, Arcimboldo got most of his artistic learning from the great master Leonardo, who was active in Milan for over 17 years. And in Milan, we only know of religious works he carried out, and we still have no idea on the basis of what famous works he was invited to the imperial court in Vienna. When he arrived at the Habsburg court, Ferdinand I was still emperor, and his son Maximilian II, who came through Milan twice on his way to Madrid, must have been the one who picked Arcimboldo to come to Vienna. And he employed, when he was still not emperor, he employed Arcimboldo. And he also, he had to carry out portraits, copies of portraits of the emperor, etc. But soon he started painting the famous series of the seasons, and we know that summer is dated 1563, that early, that means within a year of his arrival. After that, he became involved in the design and the regie of great pageants and court tournaments, the most famous of which was the one of the wedding of Maximilian's younger brother to Mary of Bavaria. And this was an occasion which lasted a week, and he had to lay out the costumes and the plays at court and the balls and the tournaments proper. So it was, he became a great director of court spectacles. And this was one of the works he carried through also until the end of his stay, because he moved with the Emperor Rudolf II, the son of Maximilian II, to the court in Prague. And still in Prague, he laid out tournaments and pageants, and only when he was finally tired after 25 years of service to 3 emperors, that he was given the permission by Rudolf II to return to his home city, Milan, with great honors and a pension. And from Milan, he still carried out work for the emperor, who didn't really want to see him leave. What we see within these heads, they are composed of a number of objects. And in the case of the seasons, it are the flowers or the fruits or the tree branches which make up the season, which are characteristic for the season. In the case of the elements, you have all the fish that swim in the element water. You have about 80 something rather kinds. And you have all the elements making up fire in the fire, and you have the birds which stand for air, composing the head of air, and so on. And this shows part of his first kind of studies of natural specimens, which were then, for the first time, scientifically researched. The emperors competed, or let's say all the princes and regents competed with each other in acquiring new knowledge of fauna and flora, which the rarest specimens, which were brought from all over the world, from the Americas, from the Indies, etc. They set up botanical and zoological gardens. They hired the most famous scholars and scientists available then. And within this, you have Arcimboldo drawing from life flowers and animals. And these feed into his elements, into his seasons. And he dedicated them to the emperor, and he had a humanist write panegyrics and explanations that they actually made up and revealed and visualized the great reign of the emperor. Once Arcimboldo had created his first series of seasons and elements, which he dedicated to the Emperor Maximilian on New Year's Eve of 1569, the emperor was thrilled with these inventions and became so proud of his court painter that he had him complete a series which he sent out to his relatives at the court of Madrid, at the court in Munich, in Dresden, and this is how we still have a series today in Paris, which comes from the Saxons in Dresden, and so on. And he continued with this work and extended it to other types of composite heads. Arcimboldo was very important and very influential for the creation of new genres in painting. One is probably with his reversible heads. He created a kind of beginning of the still life, if it were not that if you could reverse the plate of fruit or of cooking, then you still had a funny face. The second point in which he was so inspiring was the caricature. And so he gave a lot of inspiration to further art, but his was of a kind of joyfulness and choking, which ended with the era of mannerism, more or less. And so Arcimboldo's kind of jokes and capriccios became forgotten in the 17th century. And not until the early 20th century, with the beginning of surrealist art, was he rediscovered and considered as their most important forerunner. And so he figures in the first exhibition at the MoMA in New York as the father of all surrealists. And after this, he became a great hero for contemporary art, for the art of publicity, for marketing, and until today, everybody loves him. Arcimboldo is very well known to the Japanese, and individual paintings have traveled to Japan before. Very often he's put in the context of sort of artistic deception, and in a very sort of general way. What we try this time with Arcimboldo is to make him understood as an extraordinary artist of his time in terms of his artistic development, in terms of the context he grew out of, in terms of the special invention and its basis. We try to explain him and his art, not in the large context of 500 years of works of art, but in the very concrete context of his time. We will try to be very serious about the artist, and we want the Japanese public to discover the joke, the light joke and the serious joke his art conveys for himself. And we are sure he will love it.